Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Friday, the 3rd of July. I'm Angela Lagusad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Latuncala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Now let's begin with the rally staged by the Iglesia ni Cristo. After 3 days of mass action, the group concluded its protest Thursday night at Liwasang Bonifacio in Manila. Protesters denounced the plunder case set to be filed against Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Before the rally ended, Senator Robin Padilla addressed the crowd, claiming members of the Senate minority bloc are being singled out. Former President Rodrigo Duterte also conveyed his support for the INC through his daughter Kitty Duterte, who is currently in The Hague. Meanwhile, President Bongbong Marcos rejected the claim that the government is practicing selective justice.
Iniisa-isa na po kami. Hindi po magtatagal, masushoot na naman ako. Kasi yung kaso ko, obstruction of justice, na ang warrant of arrest galing sa ICC eh. Dayuhan eh. Wala naman akong obstruction of justice dito. Foreigner pare ang kaso ko, foreign. Pwede naman akong mag-artista, ang daming leading lady. Pero nagtitiis ako para sa inyo!
Maiksi lang yung sinabi niya, he said, sa mga Pilipino, pagpatuloy niyo yan. So, take it out however you think it means. Sa abuso nila sa atin, no, darating yung panahon na mapupuno talaga yung Pilipino.
All right, so selective justice is the outcry of the people supporting Senator Rodante Marcoleta and, of course, overall the Duterte family, no? And the ombudsman needs to prove that that outcry is not true by filing cases also doon sa mga involved in the flood control projects. But looking at it in a bigger perspective, na sinasabi na nasi-single out yung mga opposition, but who are in the majority? You have Senator Bam Aquino and Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Both were not senators at the time of the 2025 budget. You have Senator Risa Ontiveros, who actually didn't sign the budget at the time as well. You have Senator Lacson, na wala din naman at that time. Tito Soto. We can test this theory or this accusation, this allegation, kay Senator Chis Escudero at Senator Joel Villanueva. Diba? Kasi yun inaantay natin, sabi nila, before nag-jump sila sa kabila, there were looming cases, diba, are going to be filed against them. So that we need to see kung talagang meron talagang mga cases doon. And of course, congressmen who are also involved in this. And lagi ko nga sinasabi sa inyo, diba, filing a case is one thing, but getting conviction is another thing. Because the history will tell us na every time nagpapalit ang mga administration, naiiba din yung mga nangyayari, diba? Like yung mga napakulong from the previous admin, nakakawala sa next admin. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Minsan bumabagal yung wheels of justice, di ba, pag iba na yung administration. So we're gonna see, but Ombudsman Boying Remulla has repeated time and again naman that cases are already being built, di ba? They're already in the midst of preliminary investigation. When it comes to the cases of Senators Chis Escudero, Senator Joel Villanueva, and even former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. But ako, I'm curious kung itutuloy nga ba talaga ng Ombudsman yung filing ng plunder charges against Senator Marcoleta. Kasi this week yun di ba? We heard Senator Rodante Marcoleta saying during the rally na willing na siyang magpakulong, arestuhin na daw siya. But it's already Friday, it's the last day of the week. And so we're gonna have to wait and see kung ngayong araw ba talaga.
Kasi this is yung sinasabi nilang this week eh. This is the last day of the week.
Work week. Last day of the working.
Yeah, but so is this, we already saw the last day of the rally as well. Just a recap again, na-surprise tayong lahat nung Tuesday. They continued the rally on Wednesday in White Plains. They were able to get the permit, and then they just moved to Liwasang Bonifacio. Was it yesterday?
Na-revoke kasi yung permit nila nung pang second day.
Yung sa post mo about the garbage. So MMDA already said that they collected 36,585 tons of garbage along EDSA White Plains.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
They collected.
They collected. So,
That's good news.
binasa ko lang kasi binanggit niya yesterday. Sabi ko, ano, teka lang. But other than that, I think the PNP said na aside from the incidents on the first day, everything was safe,
Peaceful.
and that's all we want. Yung walang gulo.
Pero syempre may mga usapin dyan na of course that sabi nila DILG and QC government parang treaded lightly dun sa nangyari because di ba parang there were several violations na ginawa ng protesta na yon and that's why na-revoke yung kanilang permit no on the third day supposedly na kanilang ano kaya they moved to Liwasang Bonifacio. And I remember si Calio D, isa sa mga lagi nagrarally yan, di ba sabi niya parang sa tagal ko na nagrarally parang di pa daw siya nakatikim ng mga ganyang klaseng special treatment, nabigyan sila ng lugaw, food and whatever doon sa sa Manila.
All right, but now in other news, the Philippines is now an upper middle income country. The World Bank says the country's gross national income per capita reached $4,850 in 2025, above the threshold for the new income classification. President Bongbong Marcos calls the upgrade a vote of confidence in the country's future. He said the milestone shows the government's economic policies are working, citing steady growth, a broadly stable currency, and long-term reforms. But Malacanang says this should not be treated as the finish line. Executive Secretary Ralph Recto meanwhile says the real measure of success is whether Filipino families actually feel the gains through lower inflation, better jobs, stronger purchasing power, and more investments. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, pero nafe-feel nyo ba na we are an upper middle income country?
Kahapon pa lang sinabi. So, wait, let me check.
Okay, but just for context, no, what this means for us Filipinos is that data shows that our gross national income per capita, or the average annual income of Filipinos, is now at 295,850 pesos, or monthly, that's around 25K. Diba? But that's just an average. Eh. The problem there is it's concentrated on a specific class. Marami pa rin mga Filipinos living below the poverty line, struggling to make ends meet. So yes, this is a good thing. This is something that we should welcome because it means that we have a steady growth in our economy. This could also mean more investors will be interested to invest here in the Philippines. We can take a look at Vietnam as an example. Their economy has been growing very, very fast and they've already received a lot of investments from big players. So that's potentially an effect of this new classification for us. But then again, this new upper middle income classification for the Philippines doesn't automatically translate for better lives for Filipinos, diba? Nandiyan pa rin yung income disparity. Yung minimum wage natin, hindi pa rin enough, diba? It's 780 pesos, but they say the living wage is 1,200. So hopefully, itong classification won't just be something on paper, something, a title, ano ba yan, bragging rights.
Something that's actually felt.
Something
by
that's
the
actually
people.
felt.
Yeah. But I also had to read up on how the classifications are upgraded or how they're made. So this was on the World Bank website. Because I'm like, how did they? How
good
did they get
research.
to this point? So aside from the Philippines, kasi so Jordan, Micronesia, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam also moved from low middle income to upper middle income country status. But each country has its own categories in which they were elevated. But for the Philippines itself, according to the World Bank, the Philippines has achieved reclassification through broad-based expansion. GDP grew at an average of 5.8% per year over 5 years. And then it also reflected gains all over major industries, not just a single sector. And it was an economy-wide shift.
Oo. Pero yung nasabi nila this is good news, pero can we sustain it? Because apparently, they upgrade this they check it every July. And I think yung Middle East conflict, hindi pa yung nafa-factor in dito. So, can we sustain it to be in the upper middle income class? Diba? And of course, we have to thank also the OFW remittances. Yan ang mga nagdadrive sa atin kasi dollars yan diba? And of course, yung tourism natin. This may also, like what you said, invite foreign investors. Pero, sabi nga nila, may mga concessional loans daw na hindi natin makukuha na if ever in this category because naka-reserve yung mga programs na yan for lower income countries. So may mga downside to that. But we'll see. Tulad nga na nababanggit ninyo, di ba? This is good news, pero still, high prices, underemployment, income inequality, this continue, di ba, to plague the millions of Filipinos. Lumabas ka nga lang dyan, nakita mo, ang daming mga, di ba, ang daming mga nakatira sa kalye, walang makain. So, di ba, gusto namin maramdaman. No, yun ang gusto.
Sabi nga ng mga tao, for them to feel that they are upper middle income is when they can say they can buy their needs without having to budget yung mga kailangan nila bilhin, diba? And there's still room for other wants, other things that you want to buy without needing to think, oh, ito kailangan mapunta yan dyan, hindi na ako makakain nito, di ba? Kailangan ko magtipid dyan.
Yung pagpupunta ka sa restaurant, ang tinitignan mo lagi yung
Price.
kanan. Kasi that's the price eh.
Ano ba yung pinaka,
mas mura
pasok
dito,
sa budget?
diba? Oo.
So hopefully, there's a time na all of us, all Filipinos, maramdaman itong
Kung sa dami ng ninakaw ha, billions yun. Tapos ang dami nating utang ngayon, sorry Pero di ba trillions yung utang na natin ngayon?
Yeah.
Babayaran din yun ng kaapu-apuhan natin.
Yeah. It's generational
Yes.
debt na. All right, now on to sports. Filipino athletes continue to make their mark on the international stage. Alex Ayala is through to the third round of Wimbledon. Ayala rallied from a set down to beat Australia's Maya Joint 3-6, 6-2, 6-love. The Filipina tennis star continues her historic run after becoming the first Filipina to win a match at Wimbledon. She next faces world number 3, Iga Swiatek. Meanwhile, EJ Obiena ruled the Raiffeisen Austrian Open in Austria after clearing 5.75 meters. It was Obiena's second gold in just days and his best performance so far under his new coach. All right, so here's the story from A to Z.
I wanna listen. Kasi ako, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't really watch. I'm just so proud that Alex Ayala is in the map. No? Pero hindi ako maalam sa ganyan.
So let's start with Alex. Alex actually lost to Maya Joint in the Eastbourne Open last year. So this is a revenge.
yes.
This is a revenge
It's a
win.
comeback, yeah.
Other than that, only 3 Filipinos have made it to the third round of Wimbledon. So Felicissimo Ampon, Raimundo Deiro, and now Alex Ayala. So now that she's facing Iga Swiatek, Alex and Iga, close kami.
First name basis na
First name
kayo.
basis kami. Their face-off is 1-1.
Okay.
So Alex, that was the match where people went crazy because she beat Iga Swiatek in the Miami Open quarterfinals last year, and then Swiatek naman beat Ayala in the Madrid Open last May. So 1-1 sila, and then just for fun, by reaching the third round of Wimbledon, Alex has already secured around the equivalent of 15.2 million pesos.
Wow, that's a
Wow.
windfall for Alex.
Well, I was wondering nga, kasi sabi nila in the first set of her match rather, parang hindi siya naging okay doon. So how was the adjustment that she did during that game?
Hindi ko na
Akala ko lang,
Sabi naman akong analyst.
no, pero si Alex naman, she's known to have that composure
Yeah.
all the time, diba? Even if she's down, you know,
Yeah.
she has that in herself that she will remain composed. She can come back from any deficit, so that's what she displayed.
Calm, cool, and collected all the time.
Oo. And I remember her dad would always say, you know, Alex, as a young girl, she works really, really hard. She doesn't let her wins, her victories get in her
Yeah.
head. So that's one thing we
always
can
very
She's always been
look up to,
humble.
diba?
And of course, EJ Obiena. So this is his second gold in a matter of like a week, I think.
Wow.
So he beat the previous, for this competition, he beat the previous meet record. So he set a new record. The previous record was 5.74. EJ jumped 5.75
Wow, look at that.
meters. And then that was also his personal best. From his runner-up finish in Dusseldorf last month. So the previous gold naman was at the Czeslaw Cybulski Memorial in Poland. That was just on Monday. And then before that, a few weeks before that, he actually landed in last place.
So ganun din.
So
Parang
from last
bumawi
place,
siya.
nag-gold siya.
Oh, talk about revenge.
It's good to see EJ still competing
I
at a
know.
very high level. Kasi magka-age kami niyan eh. 31. 1995 din siya. But kasi sa... age reveal, yes. But to perform at this level pa rin at his age kasi in a sport like this, malaking bagay yan.
So, pang-ilan na siya ulit sa The World? Kasi I remember yung si
there's a time
Duplantis,
now.
di ba?
Duplantis. He's the GOAT.
Marrying, it's hard to...
Ako, umaasa pa rin ako
Yeah,
na matatalo one day.
Sunod-sunod na yung gold niya. Oh, you never know.
Medyo malayo na si Mondo Duplantis. Yeah, generational talent yun.
All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The Tacloban school shooting incident is sparking calls for stronger action against online extremism. Here's the report.
Senator Risa Hontiveros says the two minors behind June 22 Tacloban school shooting must be held accountable. But she maintains that lowering the minimum age of criminal responsibility is not the answer. Hontiveros says the government should first strengthen existing interventions for children in conflict with the law. This includes more funding for Bahay Pag-asa centers, which provide shelter, rehabilitation, and reintegration programs for minors. The senator also wants a stronger campaign against online predators and extremist groups targeting vulnerable youth. Among them is 764, an online nihilistic violent extremist group allegedly operating in gaming platforms. In a Senate hearing on Wednesday, Hontiveros said it was a key influence in the Tacloban school shooting.
Paano magi-intervene sa kanila? Paano sila i-divert habang patanda sila hanggang age of 18? Para tanggalin sila dun sa cycle of violence saan sila isinadlak. Hindi lang dahil sa malign actions nung nag-groom sa kanila para sa karahasan, pero other circumstances.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice is urging lawmakers to pass a measure that would directly address nihilistic violent extremism. The DOJ says there is still no legal framework specifically covering it. But it stressed that authorities can still use existing laws, including the cybercrime law and the revised penal code. The DOJ is also looking into the possibility that the Tacloban shooting was driven by a pattern of online extremism and not simply school bullying.
May magagawa tayo at gagamitin natin yung mga nandyan na batas, no, para parusahan yung mga tao sa likod nitong mga NVE na to. Nandyan yung Cybercrime Act, nandyan yung RA 11930, no, or an Anti-OSAIC and CSAIM law, at syempre nandyan yung mga regular crimes sa penal code, no.
The 15-year-old suspect is currently facing murder and attempted murder complaints.
Now, in other news, Senator Rodante Marcoleta says he is ready to be jailed as he faces a looming plunder case before the ombudsman. The case stems from the 75 million pesos in campaign donations he received before he became a senator in 2025. The ombudsman says Marcoleta was then a congressman and that even private donations can be considered ill-gotten because of his public position. But Marcoleta denies wrongdoing and claims he is being politically targeted.
Nakahanda po akong magpakulong. Kung kinakailangang maaresto po ako, wala pong problema. Ginawa po nilang politika ang lahat ng ito. Naglulubid ng mga chismis, ngunit walang ebidensya.
Marcoleta also questioned why other personalities, including former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, are not being held accountable. Meanwhile, Romualdez's lawyer says there is no evidence linking him to anomalous infrastructure projects. And according to the ombudsman, it will be guided by evidence and not claims of political persecution.
Expected na ganun na maging response nila. Like I mentioned, a lot of the people that we go up against will always point to political persecution. But what we are concerned about here at the office is the evidence that we have on the respondents. And that's the only thing that will drive us here.
Meanwhile, DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said the Philippines' attainment of upper middle income status reflects years of sustained economic expansion. In an interview with The Big Story, Balisacan said the milestone sends a strong signal to foreign investors, boosting the country's attractiveness as a destination for investment and job creation. He stressed, however, that the achievement is only the beginning, with the government now focused on translating economic gains into broader growth. Balisacan added that the new classification also reinforces global confidence in the Philippines' economic trajectory.
Achieving a upper middle income class status means that we have progressed on a sustained basis over the years. We have managed to keep growth sustained over a long time. Remember that the last time when we entered the lower middle income country, it was in 1987, and it took 39 years for us to go to the next level. And that is a
So Vietnam beat us to it.
Vietnam, admittedly, has been growing much faster than us and has been attracting many good more players and investors than us. But I think that we have the potential to grow faster than what we actually had over the last couple of the last 10 years or so. It does send a signal to the investment community, investing community, that we're a country that is able and can sustain growth, and that's what investors are looking at. Countries that are able to generate markets for their products, and that's what this sustained
There's
growth.
more purchasing power.
There's more purchasing power, and of course our objective is not only to grow rapidly, but to also make sure that that growth tawag nating inclusive, that it's accompanied by growth in high-quality jobs, so that the middle class will grow.
Yeah.
A lawyer and stand-up comedian Ed Chico said comedy serves as a powerful way to express truth, allowing difficult issues to be discussed through humor. Speaking on One News's political beat, Chico admitted that being a comedian has become more challenging amid today's polarized climate and growing culture of online criticism. But he also stressed that someone still has to do the job of making people laugh while speaking the truth. The comedian also identified the government and sectors of civil society as common sources of censorship. And despite the rise of cancel culture, Chico said he remains committed to political satire, describing it as a reflection of society rather than an endorsement of any ideology.
Ako kasi ang ginawa ko from the very start, wala akong pakialam. If they want to cancel me, I really couldn't care less. I'd really fight for my right to say what I want to say. Kasi bilang abogado naman, alam ko yung mga dapat kong sabihin at hindi. Alam ko kung libelous, alam ko kung hindi. And at the end of the day, lahat lang naman sinasabi ko bilang komedyante, hindi ko naman pinaniniwalaan yun eh. Sinusundan ko lang o sinasalamin ko lang yung iniisip nila. Like, halimbawa, nagagalit sa akin yung mga DDS kasi may joke ako, sabi ko, masarap mag-joke sa mga DDS, kasi hindi sila napipikon. O baka hindi naman nila gets. Diba? So, nagagalit sila sa joke na yon. Meron akong joke dati, sabi ko, ang maganda sa mga DDS, nag-show ako sa kanila, 5 oras inabot. Kasi kailangan ko paliwanag yung joke. Yung mga ganyan, hindi ba? Tapos yung
mahaba
mga
pa sa presko ni Tatay Diggs yan.
Ano?
Mahaba pa sa presko ni Tatay Diggs.
Mahaba pa sa presko, hindi ba? Of course, yung mga kakamping naman, you target the hypocrisy naman, hindi ba? Yung mga never again, why not nila. So akala nila, I promote all those ideas. They don't realize that when I wear my hat as a lawyer, I'm just basically articulating their own thoughts. Kumbaga, reflection yun ng iniisip nila, not necessarily from me. Although, pag nanood ka ng show ko, may sarili akong opinion, which, of course, hindi nakikita kasi masyado siyang mahirap i-share sa SOCMED.
And now in the weather, there are currently no active tropical cyclones within the country. Tropical storm Maisak, locally known as Henry, has exited the Philippine area of responsibility. And with this, the effects of habagat have also weakened. Meanwhile, a potential super typhoon is now being monitored by Pag-asa. Bavi is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, and it will be given the local name Inday. For now, easterlies are affecting the eastern sections of Central Luzon, Southern Luzon, and the Visayas. All right, now don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Good morning mga kapatid. Welcome back to Morning Matters.
Now, as we know, it was a busy week in politics. Here are some of the biggest developments. The Senate Impeachment Court prepares for the trial proper of Vice President Sara Duterte on July 6. The Ombudsman, meantime, is moving to file plunder charges against Senator Rodante Marcoleta over 75 million pesos in campaign donations. Marcoleta denies wrongdoing and says he is ready to be jailed, while Iglesia ni Cristo members continue to show support for him. Former Speaker Martin Romualdez was also dragged back into the controversy following claims from alleged former bagmen. Meanwhile, the Tacloban school shooting has sparked debate on minors in conflict with the law and the threat of online extremism. And Malacanang is touting the country's new upper middle income status, which President Marcos calls a vote of confidence in the Philippines' future.
And now to help us make sense of all these developments, we are joined by none other than our political pundit, Mr. Ronald Llamas, the Dalai Llamas. Tama ba? Okay, Sir Ronald.
Hi, good morning, Pauline, Angela, Cheska.
Good morning.
Ganda naman ang morning natin.
Ano maganda gising mo ngayon? Tapos na yung rally.
Tapos na yung rally.
Sir Ronald, sobrang daming nangyari this week,
Yes.
from the INC rally. We're also just days away from the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. But let's go back muna dun sa mga nangyari this week. Ano yung mga pinaka nag-stand out sa'yo and ano ba yung magiging implication yan politically?
Well, una, yung desisyon ni Ombudsman Boying Remulla na talagang sampahan na ng plunder cases. Si Senator Marcoleta. Na sinabi naman niya several weeks ago, sinabi rin niya last week, at last Monday, sabi niya, ay mangyayari na this week. Nangyayari ito sa context ng katatapos lamang na Senate crisis, di ba? At papunta ka naman sa isang impeachment sa Monday, at in 3 weeks' time, State of the Nation address. The first SONA after nung mahiya ka naman SONA last year. So, yan yung context nito. At biglang nagkaroon ng explosion na hindi naman unexpected. Dahil yung iglesia naman talaga nagmo-mobilize yan religiously. No? Pero last year, almost 1 million yung nag-rally noong January for peace daw. Pero malinaw naman, ito ay para dun sa impeachment ni Sara para kontrahen, which happened ng February or March. No? Tapos last year din, nag-rally rin sila ng more than 500,000 sa Luneta again dito sa issue ng corruption na binabanatan yung gobyerno. May mga balita nga ng destabilization, di ba? Tapos ngayon, nag-threaten uli sila. At this time, sa People Power Monument. Ang problema, medyo kinapos. No? Mga 10,000 lang. At nung lumipat sila sa Liwasang Bonifacio, ay kakaunti rin. Kaya nagdesisyon na sila kagabi na itiklop na. Pero originally, yung mga plano ay several hundred thousands. At kung hindi pa rin aatras yung kaso laban kay Marcoleta, ay may possibility na tutuluyan sa Malacanang or mag-extend hanggang sa SONA sa Lunes. No? So, medyo naiwasan itong ganitong klaseng disruption or even destabilization. Habang wala yung presidente, nasa Canada. No? Kaya ito ay punto sa gobyerno na nagpakita sila ng decisiveness, ng strength, na hindi sila magpapapressure, lalo na sa usapin ng rule of law. Kaya in a way, sa dami ng problema ng gobyerno at sa pababa na approval rating, ito ay punto sa kanila. At ito naman ay medyo kontra dun sa imahe ng Iglesia ni Cristo na almost invincible, no? Na isa sa pinakamalakas na hindi lamang religious groups, kundi political groups, kahit hindi nila aaminin, sa ating bansa. So medyo na-burst ng konti yung kanilang bubble ng invincibility.
So, with the recent rally, did they mean to spark public outcry outside the religion? Did they succeed?
Of course, ang plano nila ay makastimulate ito ng galit sa bigger population na hindi Iglesia ni Cristo. Pero mukhang ang na-stimulate nila ay mas galit sa kanila dahil sa traffic, dahil sa discomfort ng mga nakatira ron. Kaya nga, eventually, hindi na sila pinayagan o binigyan ng permit ng Quezon City dahil marami nagreklamo ng mga resident doon sa White Plains, Corinthian, etc. No? Kaya mas yung na-achieve nila ay mas discomfort para sa mga tao. Tapos, tingin ko mismo sa mga members ng iglesia, hindi masyadong compelling issue or compelling rallying point si Marcoleta. Una, yung issue, plunder At medyo clear-cut case yan Meron niyang batas, meron niyang president. Kahit sinasabi nila, hindi yan plunder, wala namang ninakaw sa kaban ng bayan. Hindi ganun ang plunder Pag tumanggap ka ng more than 50 million, government official ka, hindi lang yan indirect bribery. That's plunder. At yan, may precedent na, halimbawa kay ERAP. No? Tumanggap siya ng galing sa wedding money. That's private money. So, hindi lang siya nasa batas. Meron na siyang precedent. Kaya halos open and clear-cut case yan. So, hindi siya rallying point. Ikalawa, si Marcoleta mismo. Kung ikaw ba yung miyembro nila, ikaw ba ay magsasakripisyo ng sarili mo para sa
you're
isang
saying
senador?
he is not enough.
Yes. Yung character niya ay hindi masyadong compelling para i-risk mo yung iyong buhay sa isang uprising. No? Kaya tingin ko mismo yung mga miyembro ng iglesia ay hindi ganun ka-enthusiastic. Tingin ko lang, no? Pwedeng mali ako.
But aside from Senator Rodante Marcoleta, I mean, we saw several personalities take the stage and say things that, you know, we heard Senator Robin Padilla saying na pati daw siya, nababalitaan niya may obstruction of justice. And then yung speech ni Senator Marcoleta where he said na magpapakulong,
willing siya
magpa-aresto. And then Senator Amy Marcos saying bangag and drunk on power.
Lasing sa kapangyarihan.
Lasing sa kapangyarihan. Just your thoughts on all the words that were...
Yes. That's a mouthful, di ba?
Yeah.
Oo. Pero ang problema kasi nila ay itong mga senador na ito ay even before itong crisis sa Senate ay marami ng kaso na nakasampa sa kanila. Hindi ito nangyari ngayon lang. Yung kay Robin siguro ngayon nangyari dahil nakita naman na itinakas na si Bato. That's obstruction of justice. Hindi pa naman plunder yung kaso ni Robin. Hindi pa. No? Pero ang kaso niya, obstruction of justice, kitang-kita naman. Ang sabi lang niya, ang paliwanag lang niya, naglalakad lang naman sila palabas. At dahil walang masakyan, isinakay niya. Fugitive yun At saka, kahit naman kasuhan siya, makakadalo pa rin siya sa Senado. Dahil bailable naman yun Hindi yan katulad ng plunder. No? Kaya, baka it doesn't hold water na inuubo sila dahil even before, yung kanilang grupo ay dami ng kaso. Si Bato at saka
Maraming involvement.
Si Bongo may kaso sa International Criminal Court ng Crimes Against Humanity. So hindi lang dito yan Tapos si Bongo may kaso ng plunder. Doon sa Parmali, kung maalala nyo, ng COVID, no? Naka-file yan sa ombudsman. Tapos yung dalawang bilyar, may kaso ng corporate crimes, no? Market manipulation, insider trading, etc. Tapos mismo si Alan Peter ang may nagsasabi na may binibuild up din na kaso sa Taguig dahil sa mga anomalous flood control projects. So these senators, hindi sila makakaangal na ito ay persecution dahil talaga namang may mga kaso sila. Wala ka naman nakitang kaso kay Risa Hontiveros, kay Kiko at saka kay Bam na bagong senador lang. Wala rin namang kaso kay Ping Lacson na never tumanggap ng pork barrel. So kung makukumpara mo yung grupo nila at saka yung grupo ngayon dito sa Senado, wala ka naman makikitang comparison. Wala namang kaso si Win Gatchalian, no? Etc. So kitang-kita yung contrast eh. Kaya hindi kayang i-argue na pinipersecute sila, no? Na selective persecution. Napabilis lang yung kay Marcoleta dahil hindi lang kinakailangan ng case build-up eh. Siya lang yung umamin eh. No? Sabi nga ni Boying, kwento, mabilis lang to dahil sa kanila nang galing yung ebidensya.
Pero Sir Ronald, speaking of yung kaso nga ni Senator Dante Marcoleta, yun talaga kasi yung announcement ni Ombudsman Remulla na ipa-file na this week, yun din yung nag-spark nitong rally ng INC. Pero today is Friday, it's the last working day of the week. Mapa-file ba yan today? Ano bang pwede natin asahan?
Dapat. Kundi, isa na naman to dun sa mga promisa ni Boying. Maalala mo, nag-promisa siya last year na bago magpasko, may mga kakasuhan at ikukulong. Tapos Marso, tapos Mayo. At least nung Mayo, nakasuhan at saka nakulong si Jinggoy. Pero patapos na yung linggo. Sa bagay, kakasimula pa lang naman. Aga nyo kasi. So tingnan natin sa buong araw.
Tingnan natin ngayon.
Pero going into the SONA in 3 weeks, medyo kailangan nila maghabol.
Para may report.
Oo, dahil kung maalala nyo, nung SONA, after nung SONA last year, nag-announce si Bongbong. Ito nga yung nagsimula nito eh. Yung 15 na biggest contractors na involved dito sa mga anomaly tsaka ghost projects. Doon sa 15 na yon, 0.5 pa lang yung nakukulong. May 14.5 pa natitira. Dahil kalahati lang ng diskaya yung nakulong.
Yes.
So, kailangan niyang ipakita na itong kanyang mismong nilunsad, may output. Yung more than 60 congressman daw na involved sa mga contractors themselves. Ni isa wala pa nakukulong. Na yung graft case kay Saldico ay tinapon pa ng korte yesterday dahil hindi naman siya nahuli for 6 months. So, kailangan maghabol ng gobyerno para ipakita na may output yung presidente. No?
Well, taking off from what you said, because yun nga pupunta tayo dun sa accusation ng kabilang kampo na selective justice. Andun na tayo sa point na ikukumpara mo sila doon sa majority of the senators, wala ka nang maikaso doon because marami sa kanila ay baguhang senator, wala nung 2025 budget. But of course, people are saying, for the sake of fairness po ng discussion natin, bakit sila Senator Cheese Escudero? Bakit sila Senator Joel Villanueva? Does it mean na sila ay nasa kabila na hindi na sila makakasuhan? Bakit ang tagal? Bakit nauna sila? No? For the sake of argument, pati yung mga congressmen who are involved in the flood control project, where are they now? Wala pa silang kaso. Speaker Romualdez is a cousin of the president.
Yes. Kaya nga, kailangan habulin yung ibang mga kaso. Pero yung sa Senado, si Cheese at saka si Joel, tingin ko hindi mawawala yung kaso na yan. Si Cheese lang, wala pang preliminary investigation. No? Unlike si Jinggoy, na may preliminary investigation na. Si Joel, ongoing. No? Tapos yung kay Speaker Martin, problema na wala si Gutesa. At si Saldico, wala rito. Yun yung kinakailangan mo para mag-testify. Kailangan mo ng smoking gun eh.
Pero apparently si former Secretary Manuel Bonoan daw yung parang gagawin nilang ay state witness.
Posible. Doon siya yung gagawing smoking gun dito sa mga kaso na ito. Dahil alam niya lahat eh. Ang debate lang dyan, siya ba ay hindi principal? Dahil cabinet secretary siya. So yun ang debate. Sabi naman nila, mas marami siyang idadawit. Mas marami siyang may implicate dito. Kaya yun yung value niya. No? So, hindi ko kabisado kung anong ibig sabihin nila ng principal. No? Dahil cabinet secretary, the only one na nakasuhan at nakulong. No? So, very delicate itong susunod na mga linggo. No? Pero yung inuulit ko, yung kay Marcoleta, kaya napabilis. Siya kasi umamin. No? Kung hindi siya umamin, baka may case build-up, may preliminary investigation, tapos sandigan bayan. Pero dahil siya na mismo umamin, tumalon siya, nag-leapfrog siya.
Nahuli siya sa sarili niyang bibig.
So let's say, looking ahead, just because the Senate impeachment trial starts Next Monday already.
Yes.
So let's say na within the day, kasi nga ang aga namin, we're so sorry. Let's say within the day, ma-file na yung kaso. What does this mean for the Senate Impeachment Court next week?
Well, una, baka mabawasan yung numbers na kinakailangan for impeachment, yung 2/3. Ano, 2 na yung nabawas, kung sakali, Jinggoy at si Marcoleta. Kung sakaling mahuhuli si Bato at saka si Bongo at dadalhin sa ICC, so 4 na yung nawala. So 20. Anong 2/3 ng 20? Hindi ako magaling sa mathematics pero parang 14. No? Parang 14. No? So, may epekto, at least in terms of numbers. Ikalawa, pwedeng magkaroon ng chilling effect dun sa ibang mga senador na may kaso. Di ba? Pwedeng kabahan sila. No? Hindi ko naman sinasabi na kakabahan sila or boboto sila ayon sa kanilang kaba. Pero huwag niyong kalimutan, this is not a real court. No? Hindi ito naghahabol ng beyond reasonable doubt, katulad ng mga korte, yung mataas na evidentiary level. Ito is also a political process. So ang dominant dito, maliban doon sa articles of impeachment, naduda ako na napag-aralan ng ibang senador. No? Huwag na natin sila banggitin kung sino sila. No? Kung hindi, yung kanilang sariling political calculation. What's in it for me? Anong relasyon ng pagboto ko o hindi pagboto sa aking political future? Tingin ko yun yung mga dominant.
Yes.
Pero hindi nila aminin. Sasabihin nila, ebidensya. Pero hindi naman tayo nakatira sa kuweba. No? Alam naman natin na may iba't ibang pressures at play dito. At yung mga, halos lahat ng senador, merong vulnerabilities or may skeletons in their closet. Hindi nga in the closet, nakalabas na yung ebidensya. No? Kaya these are the realities nitong impeachment na ito.
Well, mukhang marami pa namang mangyayari, Sir Ronald, kasi this impeachment trial will last for 92 days. Well, the trial days, di ba? 92 days yan. But ahead of Monday, we already saw glimpses of the strategies of both the defense and prosecution dun pa lamang sa pre-trial conference. Punta po tayo muna dun sa defense. Yung ilan sa mga strategy nila include saying na covered ng freedom of speech, yung mga threats ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Anong basa nyo doon sa nagiging strategy ngayon ng defense? No? Do you think this trial will be an uphill battle for them and for VP Sara?
Well, sa boto, uphill battle yung conviction. Sa evidence, uphill battle para sa defense. No? Dahil nilabas nila yung sagot nila eh. Medyo mahirap yun ha. Yung public threats mo, dati kasi ang sabi nila ay hindi naman niya sinabi yun. Tapos sinabi nila ay na-manipulate. Ngayon ang sinasabi nila, freedom of speech. So nagbabago yung kanilang paliwanag doon sa unang article of impeachment, yung grave threats. Pero pag sinabi mo publicly, nagigilitan mo ng leeg yung presidente at itatapon mo yung ulo, no? At imamassacre mo yung pamilya, katulad nung nangyari sa Romanov family sa Russia, at i-assassinate mo yung presidente at asawa niya. No joke, no joke. Medyo mahirap sabihin yun na freedom of expression. No? Ikalawa, yung sinabi nila yung bribery, hindi naman directly galing sa secretary. Yes and no, dahil yung mga nagbigay, yung mga nag-bribe, mga tao mo eh. So may utos yun. No? Hindi naman yung gagawin on their own, motu proprio. So, i-establish nila, baka may magte-testify na inutusan siya. Yan yung lalabas sa impeachment court. Ikatlo, yung confidential fund, na ito daw si Madriaga ay hindi credible witness. Nung una kasi sabi niya, hindi niya kilala, never met. Pero ngayon yung pala, ay kakilala pala niya. Ang usapin na ngayon, credibility. No? Pero hindi lang naman yun yung evidence. Ang evidence doon, yung COA Notice of Disallowance. Yun. Very official yun. So, medyo hindi ganun kadali na depensahan nila yung sa confidential fund. At panghuli, yung unexplained wealth. Na ang sabi lang nila, ang sagot lang nila, bakit sinama yung asawa? Sasali yan talagang kasama yung asawa. Conjugal yun eh. No? Kaya nga kami, nung cabinet secretary kami, yung immediate family namin, i-report namin yung wealth nung buo. Kaya nagulat lang ako dahil mga abogado ito eh. Dapat alam nila yun eh. No, alam nila yun. So, tapos, tip of the iceberg lang yung lumabas, yung AMLAC. Hindi pa dyan kasama yung mga bahay, mansyon, mga lupa, ari-arian, mga paintings, jewelries, no? Mga sasakyan, no? Pag na-triangulate yan, mas malaki pa doon sa several billions na nakalagay sa bank account. At dito bubuksan na yung specific banks dahil ililift mo na yung bank secrecy laws eh. So, hindi ko alam, mahihirapan sila sa depensa. Kung yan yung
Abangan
kanilang...
na lang natin.
Yan kasi yung sinabi nila last week eh. Ito yung kanilang mga sagot.
Yeah.
Kung wala silang ibang mas matinong sagot, talagang mahihirapan
Well,
sila.
sabi nila magkakaroon daw sila ng mga surprise witnesses in the trial.
Hindi parang surprise.
Pero talking about Duterte, but I want to go to the patriarch, former President Rodrigo Duterte. After several months of not hearing from him, you have his daughter, Kitty Duterte, saying, sending messages from The Hague na sinabi ng tatay niya regarding the rally. Continue what to do, what you think is right, inaapi na nila tayo, etc. So, what do you make of this statement from the former president himself for the rally? Ano ba parang reminder sa tao na nandito pa siya, yung anak niya is being persecuted through the impeachment trial. Ano
yes,
ba?
mahalaga yung kanyang political message dahil may mga supporters yung kanyang anak. Pero basically, yung support ng kanyang anak ay dahil sa kanya. No? At mas mataas pa rin yung suporta for him. Halimbawa, meron ka mga tao like Panelo na hindi si Sara openly ang sinusuportahan, si Digong. Marami pang ganon. So, ang gusto niya, i-consolidate yung support niya at saka support sa kanyang anak. No? Going into the impeachment trial and going into yung trial niya sa November.
Right.
No? Kaya, at this point, i-weaponize niya yung kanyang arrest as victimization. No? Victimization. Pero mahihirapan din dahil ang dami kasing mga witnesses nasa The Hague ngayon na dating head ng Davao Death Squad, no? Mga dating mga hitmen na amin where the skeletons are buried, literally, hindi figuratively, no? Mismo yung babae na dating general ng police nandun, no? Ang daming mga testigo. Nagulat nga ako na pinahuli nila ito si General Dumlao. Dahil isa yan sa mga pupunta ron sa The Hague para mag-testify dito sa crimes against humanity. By the way, we're the first Asians to be charged with crimes against humanity. Kaya dapat maging proud tayo. Ha?
Ganun ba? Okay. Pero last na, no, if I may, mabilisan na lang po. The kind of power that INC has, no, sabi nga nila, kingmaker sila. Paano nagsimula yon at saka will it still translate now given what happened yesterday?
Well, usually yung INC for generations ay yung power nila ay dahil una, hindi sila nagpapatakbo ng miyembro. Pero nagne-negotiate sila sa mga tumatakbo. At naipapackage nila na sila yung nagpanalo. Both local at saka national. Yun yung strength nila. At kung kinakailangan, magmo-mobilize sila. Dahil medyo command yung kanilang centralist yung kanilang structure. No? Kaya halos lahat ng miyembro sasama. Ito yung first time, at least nakita ko, na miyembro nila naging congressman, naging senador.
Marcoleta.
At ang balita, gagawing vice presidential candidate ni Sara. And perhaps even higher. So aalagaan nila yan. Dahil this becomes a different political project ng INC. No? Posibleng naiisip nila, uy, pwede kami maging presidente. No? May separation of church and state no? At least in paper. So, ito yung first time na magkakaroon sila ng ganyang pinakamataas na opisyal na miyembro nila sa gobyerno. Kaya very sensitive sila. Kakasuhan ng plunder. No? Away tayo. Ang problema, medyo kinapos.
Yeah.
No?
Pero ba't nga ba kinapos, Sir Ronald? Bakit, yun nga, parang na-avert kahit papano yung possible disruption, destabilization? Why didn't they gather enough support dun sa Liwasang Bonifacio? Kasi nga kahapon, on the third day, kakaunti na lang.
We were expecting 100,000.
Each day pababa ng pababa yata yung numbers ng attendees.
Well, una, baka preparation tsaka logistics. Imagine mo yung logistical nightmare na kahit 10,000 lang, papakainin mo. Di ba? Saan mag-CCR yan? Saan matutulog yan? Sa EDSA, di ba? Medyo bibigyan mo ng kaunti yan. So, baka hindi na-sustain or nahanda yung logistical resource component. Ikalawa, inuulit ko yung sinabi ko kanina, hindi compelling symbol si Marcoleta para magsakripisyo yung mga membro, no, at i-risk yung kanilang mga buhay, no, para dito. Parang hindi siya ganun ka-inspiring.
Kahit siya na po yung tinitignan na, yun nga, pwedeng makakuha ng highest position in the land.
Yes, dahil yung,
Parang he wants to be kind.
Sasabihin ko
He wants
sana,
to be kind, pero ayaw niya.
sasabihin ko sana na, tingnan mo lang, itsura pa lang, tsaka yung ugali, di ba? Yung
Ad
character.
hominem yan, ad
Di ba?
hominem,
Oo.
ha?
Kaya, hindi ko na sinabi.
Okay. Sinabi mo pa rin. Ako talaga, every Friday, masarap talaga kakwentuhan si Sir Ronald Llamas. But for now, we're gonna have to leave it there. Thank you very much. As always, that was our political pundit, Sir Ronald Llamas. All right, now don't go away because we still have more matters to discuss right after this quick break. Keep it here on One News.
Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Only 8% of the country's estimated 5.1 million school-aged children with disabilities are enrolled in public schools, according to a policy brief released by EDCOM2. The study cited limited access to assessments, a shortage of trained teachers, and inadequate support services as major barriers to inclusive education. It also found that many learners with disabilities attend schools without special needs education programs or qualified teachers, leaving regular classroom teachers to provide support with little specialized training. To address these gaps, EDCOM2 urged the government to hire more SNED teachers, increase funding, strengthen early screening, and expand inclusive learning resource centers nationwide.
Joining us now is attorney Walter Alava, spokesperson of the National Council on Disability Affairs, or NCDA, to discuss the challenges facing children with disabilities in accessing education. Attorney Alava, good morning and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Ma'am Cheska, Ma'am Pauline, and Ma'am Angela, and good morning po sa lahat ng taga-subaybay po na inyong program po.
Okay, so let's talk about this, attorney. Why are only 8% of school-aged children with disabilities enrolled in public schools? What could be the factors that contribute this? What is the main reason behind the low enrollment?
Actually po, there is no single reason that explains the low enrollment of learners with disabilities. Pero ano siya, it is a result of multiple or interconnected barriers. So as kanina po, yung sa introduction nyo, yung kakulangan po, especially with accessibility, non-implementation of our accessibility laws as accorded by Republic Act, as accorded by BP 344, and at the same time, yung kakulangan po with respect to the teachers, yung mga po natin, yung mga experts natin with special needs education, mga ganun po. So, ang dami pong barriers, not just yung income, ang dami po. It's a wide latitude of interconnected barriers po.
Pero attorney, a part of the factors parents choosing private schools instead of public schools, and factor din po ba dyan yung cost, pati yung limited services na rin that are keeping children out of school altogether?
Hindi naman po kasi some of the parents might choose that their children, the persons with disability children nila po, i-enroll nila sa private schools, but it does not necessarily mean po na yung school din na private has this accommodation with respect to accessibility, with respect to parang special needs talaga with respect to the different kinds or the 9 types of disabilities. So hindi siya parang kasi nag-enroll ka sa private, so mas nakakakuha ka ng magandang service for our persons with disability or children or learners with disabilities. So not necessarily po, but with respect naman as a whole, public and private po, may kakulangan talaga with respect to the implementation po.
In terms of barriers when it comes to enrolling, I mean, obviously cost is a major factor as to why parents hesitate. What are the other barriers when it comes to enrollment?
Malaking chances po is the confidence of the learner. Second po, discrimination. And then at the same time, transportation difficulties, so that's accessibility. As you said po, financial limitation then we know that the persons with disability sector is among the marginalized sectors. And then at the same time, lack of assessment and intervention services ng mga government, especially with the schools. Kasi nga po, budget-wise, wala pong nabibigay sa kanila. But rest assured naman po that the government, through Republic Act 11650 or the Learners Act, na mandating all local government units to have at least one na ILRC, yung tinatawag nating inclusive learning system po or learning centers. So meron naman pong nag-a-address sa gap, but dahan-dahan siyang nagpro-progress.
Pero attorney, if there's one thing that I learned when I talked to the PWD community, ang isa po sa nakikita ko po talagang root cause ay yung diagnosis. No? So many families struggle to obtain diagnosis sa kanilang mga anak. Let alone makapag-enroll sila sa mga eskwelahan, hindi nga nila alam kung anong condition ng mga anak nila. And here in our country, there's only 98 developmental pediatrician. 98 po sa buong bansa. At it would take years para makapag-appointment po doon sa mga DepEd na yon. So, ano po ba yung mga ginagawa ng NCDA as well? I know hindi nyo naman po kayang yakapin ang lahat, pero are we doing something to address this as well?
Yes po. Tama po kayo, Mama, with respect to the assessment talaga. Not just for learners with disability or intellectual with disability, but for all the types of disabilities. Nagkakakulangan po dun sa mga experts natin. But because of that, na-address po ng kasi NCDA is composed of two bodies. So the 16 strong agencies of the government, including 6 representatives, kasama po dun si DOH. So kami po sa Secretariat is the one, kami po yung nag-remind sa lahat and then nagko-collect ng data. But with respect naman dun sa tanong kanina po, DOH has issued last year an administrative order po na inayos po yung categorization natin and at the same time providing alternative po na assessment para po makatulong naman din with respect to availability of the benefits and privilege on the discounts, yung 20%, yung 12% and 5% discounts. Tapos nagbigay din po na parang hindi lang yung mga specific experts po, but pwede din po yung mga accredited na mga medical experts natin. Like for example, when it comes to kung psychiatrist lang yung nag-aano sa psychosocial, so pwede po na meron pong sabihin natin special education teacher and at the same time may psychologist. So mga ganun po. So yun po yung inaayos and as I believe, there are fixing the manual of operations. So pag nalabas po yun, tuloy-tuloy po yung addressing the gap. And at the same time, with respect to the gap as of the moment, meron pong tinatawag si NCDA po ngayon na Dare Care Caravan. So ano po yan, nag-iikot po sa different provinces para po ma-assess yung mga bata natin para makita po at mabigyan po ng paunang lunas dun sa yung mga needs ng ating mga persons with disability na children po. And at the same time, NCDA is also providing for their therapy para po matugunan yung prevention, rehabilitation ng ating bata.
Attorney, are there children with disabilities that end up in general education classrooms, and how can the schools adjust to help these kids catch up to their classmates, or what are the facilities that are necessary or programs that they can put together?
Yes po. So tama po yun, ma'am, no? Because of the the gaps, yung sinabi natin ng mga barriers kanina, some of the learners with disabilities are really included in the general classes. So, some of the teachers might have, especially kung meron talagang special needs education yung experience, yung ating teacher better. But for most po, hindi talaga. So, ang nangyayari po, the school provides its own policies po regarding na paano po yung pagtrato sa kanya, sino po yung body system, parang may kasama po siya na magba-body system sa kanya, mga ganon. But what really is the in addressing this talaga, The problem po is to really create the inclusive learner centers and to have or create more mga ano po special needs education natin na mga rooms for our persons with disabilities po.
Per attorney, when we talk about the learning system, of course, kasama din dyan yung educators, di ba? Can you tell us how big is the shortage nowadays of SPED teachers? And ano na rin po yung steps na tinitake po natin para makapag-train pa po ng mas maraming mga guro, mga SPED teachers, and to retain them in special education?
Based dun sa ano po, sa stats or statistics ng Department of Education po, may mga na-hire na po na mga SNED teachers natin, and at the same time may mga different mga SPED na rooms po na converted to inclusive learners centers natin. But yun nga po, even so, kulang po talaga. Kung titignan po natin yung statistics, the NCDA uses the ano po, yung sa community-based ano natin, measuring system natin na meron pong nasa yung 15 to 18 po na learners natin nasa 283,320. Pero with respect to the DOH, sa DepEd na paglabas po, nasa mga 380 po yon. So may disparity po na 166. So yung 166 po, kulang po talaga. Wala pa pong mga rooms, wala pa pong mga teachers. So kailangan talaga mabigyan talaga ng more focus po. Pero syempre, yung barriers na mag-usapan natin, dahan-dahan pong inaayos naman po.
Right. Okay. So, ang nangyayari po kasi, kapag meron pong i-enroll na mga anak sa public school no na may children with disability, ang nangyayari po kasi mostly tinatanggihan sila because nga dun sa problema ng teachers, hindi sila maalam paano i-address no or i-educate itong mga bata na ito because they have special needs no. But the problem here is meron po tayong batas, Inclusive Education Act. No, it guarantees inclusive education for all. Saan po ba nagkakaroon ng pagkakamali or gap doon po sa implementation? Bilang kayo po ang NCDA, Council po kayo for Disability Affairs, saan po ninyo nakikita yung pagkukulang? Sinong ahensya dapat, 'di ba, aside from the Department of Education? Attorney.
Actually po, kung titignan nyo talaga, di naman siya parang it's everyone. Lahat po talaga. All the stakeholders, lahat po. Kasi yung understanding po on how to address it po was yung, kasi meron tong mga learners po na high functioning, di ba? May mga hindi din ganun ka-functioning, mga ganun. So yung treatment po sana hindi siya ganun ka-general, dapat specific to that particular disability. So meron naman pong mga different LGUs na merong mga different programs with respect to that. So meron pong, for example, for a best practice po, may mga LGUs tayo na nagsiscreening na sila. So may sarili silang screening with the different schools. Kaso nga lang po, hindi talaga ganun karami. So kulang talaga. But the screening has kung titignan nila na, okay, high functioning, pwedeng mag-aral until college. So minomold na nila yung mga learners natin with disabilities. And at the same time, pag nakikita naman na medyo hindi siya high functioning, so merong mga skills training din na to develop. Tapos tinitignan kung pwedeng sumali na doon sa track na papuntang mag-aral papuntang college. So may mga ganun po. Kaso nga lang po, the real problem or the real talaga is yung approach po, hindi po lahat nakakaintindi na ganun po dapat.
Yes,
so when it comes to kakulangan sa teachers, kakulangan sa policies, kakulangan sa budget, meron po. But addressing these issues po, dahan-dahan naman, nabibigyan naman natin ng technical assistance yung mga different persons with disability affairs offices natin sa different LGUs para po sila po yung mag-guide sa mga sa mga schools po.
I have a very quick follow-up lang po on this. Doon po sa mga magulang na sumasama po kasi yung loob nila tapos hindi na nila alam yung gagawin nila, na tinatanggihan po sila ng mga public school natin because hindi daw nila kaya i-handle yung mga anak nila. Pwede ba silang magdemanda? Can they file a complaint and will you help them, NCDA?
With respect to the NCDA's mandate naman po, we do not have parang powers to file cases. Kasi two bodies nga si NCDA. But we refer, kung may kailangan i-file po, i-refer namin to Department of Justice kasi member agency namin. But with respect naman dun sa ano po, sa nagtatanggi, siguro po better po talaga ang pinakauna mo nang gawin po is to go to their Persons with Disability Affairs offices para po to mediate dun sa baka po kasi may kakulangan talaga. But with respect naman dun sa school po, kung wala talaga silang facility to handle the persons with disability natin, so may ano naman din, may right naman din sila na sabihin po na parang, teka, wala kaming facility na to. But with respect to the implementation, kailangan po talaga dapat may facility to really cater our persons or our learners with disabilities po.
Well, one very important aspect of this is the diagnosis also. You already mentioned high functioning, and of course there are the non-high functioning children with disabilities. So how do parents distinguish? How will they know if their child is high functioning? Or how will they know if their child needs extra assistance? And where do they go?
Actually po, very good question po kasi nakikita naman ng mga dun sa day-to-day na experience nila with the child. Nakikita naman doon may mga initial mga signs. But to really parang authenticate those signs, pupunta talaga sa mga doctors po natin. So the DOH is providing naman po mga assessment. Kaso nga lang po yun talaga kakulangan ng experts natin. As mentioned earlier po, yung doctors natin for the yung DevPeds po natin, nasa mga roughly 100 or 98 lang po talaga sila. So yung schedule nila, it runs as much as a year para magpa-schedule or 6 months, 3 months, mga ganun po. So ang ginagawa po namin ngayon with the NCDA po is yun nga, umiikot-ikot kami para po mapuntahan yung mga different provinces and at the same time maka-assess kami kahit man lang hindi ganun karami po, but meron po na-assess para po makatulong din dun sa statistics natin. Pero syempre, yung kakulangan po hindi naman po hindi siya parang i-reason out na may kakulangan. So ginagawan po natin ng paraan para maayos po yung kakulangan.
And Attorney, before we let you go, baka you'd like to share with us some of the initiatives of the NCDA that parents should know about, no? And kasama rin po ba dyan yung pagbibigay ng financial assistance, especially to the families na nangangailangan ng extra support in raising and educating children with disabilities?
So as of the moment po, the NCDA has this hindi naman siya totally na parang program talaga. It's part of our augmentation po na support for our persons with disabilities. So as part of that, we have this Dare Care Caravan. Tinatawag po siyang Dare Caravan. Kasi po ang specific mandate niya is to go to the different grassroots level na mga LGUs natin through the provinces and assess these children natin, and then at the same time si NCDA po yung magbabayad ng initial na 5 to 6 months na therapy po ng ating bata. And then at the same time, through a memorandum of agreement with the province and the different LGUs po, na sila po yung magko-continue after. So yun po yung ginagawa ng NCDA as of the moment para po matugunan yung gaps with respect to the developmental PDS natin na kakulangan dun sa mga different experts natin. But not just for the DepEd po, but also for our OTs, lahat po yun, yung mga specialists natin na doctors, umiikot po yan. So nagsischedule per request ng different provinces. So siguro po it's timely din na we would like to invite din yung mga different mga LGUs na interested na mag-conduct po yung NCDA with the different provinces para dun sa Dare Caravan po. And at the same time, po ngayon, yung approaching po yung National Disability Rights Week natin. So yung mga different programs din po natin, inaanyayahan natin yung mga parents po na pupunta sa mga different activities para po for awareness and at the same time sensitivity trainings for our persons with disabilities po. Salamat po.
All right, we thank you for your time and all that you do. Attorney Walter Alava, spokesperson of the National Council on Disability Affairs or NCDA. Good morning.
Thank you po and good morning po.
Now don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Preparations are now in full swing for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte, which is set to begin on July 6. And for the latest developments, we now go live to our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza. Amy, good morning. How are the preparations already at the House of Representatives?
Yes, Pauline, tuloy-tuloy ang House of Representatives at ang House Prosecution Panel para nga sa impeachment ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Inaasahan kasi na sa Lunes nga ay magsisimula na ang presentasyon ng mga ebidensya pati na rin dokumento para nga dito sa impeachment case ni VP Sara. At ang nakita din natin at nung nakausap din natin si House Lead Prosecutor Jervy Luistro, na sabi niya na maaari na nga daw itong i-consider as the trial of this century. Pero bago magsimula ang lahat at yung pagpepresenta ng mga ebidensya at mga dokumento para nga doon sa Article number 4 o yung assassination plot, grave threats, and inciting to sedition ni Vice President Sara Duterte laban sa gobyerno ay magkakaroon daw muna ng opening statements at yung motions pa rin ay pag-uusapan lalong-lalo na dahil patuloy ang panawagan ng House Prosecution Team maging ng private prosecutors na sana nga raw ay buksan at mamarkahan nga yung mga income tax returns ni Vice President Sara Duterte at ng asawa niyang si Attorney Man Scarpio pagdating ng impeachment trial. So para lang din daw makita at maobserbahan kung ano nga ba yung maaari pang ebidensya ng House Prosecution Panel pagdating dito sa income tax returns na kaugnay ng unexplained wealth ng vice. So ang House Prosecution Team sa ngayon ay patuloy ang pagsasagawa ng mock trials at nilinaw din ni legal spokesperson Attorney Jay Tolosa na hindi na nga daw sila nag-file ng komento doon sa pre-trial order dahil wala naman daw silang nakikitang significant issue na kailangang baguhin sa pre-trial order na ibinahagi din ng Senado. Kaya patuloy yung preparasyon nila para nga dito sa inaasahang impeachment trial sa Lunes, July 6.
Nabanggit mo nga, Amy, bago ipresenta ang lahat ng ebidensya, pati mga witness dito sa impeachment trial ni Vice President Sara Duterte, tatalakayin muna ang mga preliminary matters sa Lunes. So, bukod doon sa pag-settle ng issue doon sa pagbukas ng BIR box, may iba pa bang mga motion na balak i-raise ang prosecution panel?
So far, wala naman Pauline, pero yun nga, dahil magsisimula tayo sa grave threats, pati na rin doon sa, magtutuloy-tuloy yan sa confidential funds, bribery, tapos unexplained wealth. Ang tanging gusto na lang din daw talaga ng House Prosecution Panel, ayun nga mga isasabina na witnesses ay talagang magpakita. Isang crucial role pa rin kasi dito si Mary Grace Piatos para nga daw mapatunayan yung stand o yung ebidensya na ipepresenta mismo ng House Prosecution Panel dahil sinasabi nila na yung existence o non-existence ni Mary Grace Piatos pagdating dito sa usapin ng confidential funds ay malaking bahagi para nga mapatunayan kung totoo nga bang may nakakatanggap din nitong confidential funds ni Vice President Sara Duterte.
Amy, sino ba ang mangunguna doon sa unang article na ipepresenta sa impeachment court, which is the allegations on grave threats?
Yes, ang pinakamangunguna dyan ay si Congressman Lawrence Defensor para nga daw mapag-usapan at maipresenta yung mga ebidensya nitong grave threats ni Vice President Sara Duterte laban na nga din doon sa gobyerno. At nakita natin doon sa list of witnesses, nababanggit natin ito before, si Court Sheriff Abby Andres na di umano ay sinapak nga daw ni Vice President Sara Duterte sa isang demolition operation sa Davao City noong 2011. Kasama din doon sa lista ng witnesses ay nakita natin yung mga reporter na nandoon mismo sa Zoom conference ni VP Sara noong nagbigay siya ng pagtatangka kay President Bongbong Marcos, kay First Lady Liza Marcos, pati na rin kay former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. At yun nga, 11 trial dates ang nai-allot doon sa pre-trial order para nga mapag-usapan itong grave threats na ibinigay ni VP Sara.
Amy, umaasa ba ang prosecution panel na dadalo sa sarili niyang trial si Vice President Sara Duterte?
Yes, actually, Pauline, kahapon din nung nagkaroon nga ng Mass for Truth, Justice, and Accountability, umaasa din daw talaga at pinagdadasal ng mga prosecutors na sana nga daw magpakita itong si Vice President Sara Duterte dahil nung nagkaroon kasi At nung naabangan natin yung House Justice Committee hearings, sinasabi kasi lagi ng kampo ni Vice President Sara Duterte na doon sila magpapakita at tutugon sa mga alegasyon laban sa kanya sa tamang korte. So inaasahan nila na sa Lunes nga, dahil magsisimula na itong impeachment trial, ay magpakita na mismo si Vice President Sara Duterte para mas maging madali yung magiging proseso nila. At yun nga, tuloy-tuloy din naman sana daw ang magiging proceedings dito dahil syempre hindi lang public prosecutors ang maaaring mag-cross-examine doon sa mga witnesses at sa respondent na si Vice President Sara Duterte. So gusto sana nila talaga ay malinawan na dahil hindi lang naman daw ito para nga sa evidence na nakita nila, kundi para na rin daw sa mga Pilipino na tuloy-tuloy na umantabay dito nga sa kaso ni Vice President Sara Duterte.
All right, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Amy Atienza.
Well, this just in, before we move over to mobile journalist Merimon Reyes, the Office of the Ombudsman has formally filed a plunder case before the Sandigan Bayan against Senator Rodante Marcoleta. For the details, please stay tuned. For the meantime, let's check the situation over at the Senate. We have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes joining us now live on the ground. Go ahead, Merimon.
Angela, ladies, good morning. So far, all systems go na para sa Senado na mag-reconvene as the impeachment court ngayong Monday, July 6, 2 p.m. onwards. And so far, ang schedule, according pa rin doon kaya sa pre-trial order, pati rin sa info din ni Impeachment Clerk of Court, Secretary Ray Bantug, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, starting July 6 hanggang July 27. Pero after July 27, lalo pag nag-start na yung second regular session ng Congress, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, 3 p.m. onwards ang magiging schedule ng impeachment trial. For those na gustong manood mula sa publiko, first come, first serve basis pa rin ang pagre-register doon sa Visitors Management System. 61 seats or accommodations ang maibibigay sa kanila. And itong link na to, nakapost siya sa account, sa page ng Senado. And usually a day before siya binubuksan. Kaya kung sino yung marirender na nakapasok doon sa system, ine-expect na magpapasok sila ng kanilang verification ID, yung information na kinakailangan, plus kung sila ang nakapasok doon sa registration, ine-expect din ang proper decorum at yung tamang behavior, lalo-lalo na pag nasa loob na sila ng plenary hall at pag nagsimula na ang trial proper.
Meron ka bang information, Merimon, kung ang mga mula sa minority ay anong binabalak nila sa impeachment on Monday? Will they attend?
Angela, ang sinasabi nung ilang, though wala pang bagong nagsasalita from the minority bloc, yung ilang mga miyembro naman ng majority, sinasabi, for example, Senator Rizal Ontiveros, last time ang sabi niya, since nakapag-take daw lahat ng mga senador ng kanilang oath as senator judges, ine-expect nila na bukod sa majority na may paghahanda na at pupunta sa pagdinig, ito rin daw members from the minority, baka rin daw may sarili itong preparasyon at ine-expect nila na sana ay pumunta rin sila doon. Lalo kung ang pinanghahawakan ay lahat ng mga senator judge, kasi ang nakausap natin last time dyan, sila Senator Robin Padilla, sila Senator Bongo, and yung ini-expect daw na neutrality and yung pagtingin lang sa documentary evidence na ipepresenta, yun lang daw ang magiging basehan nila pagdating sa kanilang verdict, yun naman daw ang makukuha nila ng publiko. So yun yung aabangan natin sa Monday. Plus, ang sabi rin last time kasi ni Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian, before the impeachment, magpapatawag din daw siya ng All Senators Caucus para mapag-usapan yung logistics, yung scheduling ng trial, plus pwede rin mapag-usapan at maisapinal na kung sino ang ilalagay talaga nila presiding officer, kung si SP ba o may iba silang ipepwesto ngayong Lunes. Angela.
Alright, thank you so much, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes.
In sports, Gilas Pilipinas resumes its journey to the world stage in Window 3 of the FIBA Basketball World Cup 2027 Asian qualifiers as the national team takes on the New Zealand Tall Blacks today in Auckland. The Filipinos are aiming to avenge their narrow defeat to the Tall Blacks in their previous meeting and improve their standing heading into the next round of the qualifiers. The Philippines has already secured a place in the second round, but every win in the third window is crucial as results from this stage will carry over to the next phase of the competition. After facing New Zealand, Gilas will travel to Perth for another tough road assignment against Australia on July 6.
So, Okay, again, this just in. We have breaking news that the Office of the Ombudsman has formally filed a plunder case before the Sandigan Bayan against Senator Rodante Marcoleta, as expected.
So abangan natin how soon the arrest warrant will be served.
Yesterday, the Office of the Ombudsman already said that they were going to issue the warrant of arrest as soon as the plunder case is filed. So,
The Sandigan Bayan.
same day.
Ang problem kasi, weekend eh.
Oo, yun
Diba?
na nga.
Pero
So,
kung matatrabaho nila yan within the day, who
5
knows?
PM
It's
na.
already, 10:30 pa lang in the morning, but we'll see.
But kay Senator Jinggoy Estrada, it wasn't
No,
on
it's
the
not the
same
same
day.
day, if I remember it correctly. But yun nga, we'll see if he's going to be suspended. We'll see. This is non-bailable case. Hindi natin alam kung isususpend siya because sabi, under the plunder law, tawag dito, masususpend siya if the information is valid. Okay.
And kung kailan mangyayari yung pag-arrest, will it happen on Monday? Will it be done inside the Senate? So baka magka-issue na naman ng seeking protection asylum inside the Senate.
Lots to look out for on Monday.
Yes, so for the meantime, let's enjoy our weekend.
Weekend muna.
Peace and quiet.
Well, of course, stay tuned here on One News for more details. That wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cheska Liton-Calao.
Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and we'll see you again on Monday.
Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides,
all the time.